And we had great events all over Iowa. And then we went to Chicago, and in a few days' notice, we packed the place. Some 800 people came out. Then we got on a plane. We went to Nevada. We went to Reno. And we had the largest presidential campaign event up to now in Nevada. We had about beautiful evening. We had about 4,000 people outside at the University of Nevada at Reno, and then we went to South Carolina. And in 2 days, we spoke to over 9,000 people in South Carolina and had the largest political presidential events in South Carolina this campaign. Then last night, we were in Salem. We had some 1,100 people coming out. This morning, Monday morning, we were in Conway, and we had 750 people. This afternoon, we were in Berlin. We had 325. And thank you all for being out tonight. This is clearly the campaign that's on the move. This is clearly the campaign that's going to win here in New Hampshire and throughout this country. But it's not just large turnouts in meetings. What we have seen in a time when big money is dominating the political process, at a time when candidates are begging millionaires and billionaires for campaign contributions, we have said loudly and clearly, we are not going to have a super PAC. We are going to win this thing or lose this thing based on the support of the middle class and working families of this country. And I'm really very proud to tell you that this campaign, which is only 3.5 months old, has already received some 400,000 individual contributions, more than any other campaign. And I'm also proud to tell you, other candidates might not be proud of this, I am. The average contribution is all of $31.20. So what this campaign is about is an interesting question, and we don't know the answer yet, to be frank. Can a candidate running to support the middle class and working class without big money, without the support of billionaires and millionaires, win an election? Yeah. I think we can. When you pick up the newspapers, what you hear, what you read, is this candidate has this billionaire as a sponsor. This candidate has raised, $10 million in an evening event over there. That's what politics is about right now. And we are saying that no, we don't agree with the corporate agenda. We're not going to make the rich richer. We're going to stand with the middle class and the working class of this country. What I believe from the bottom of my heart is, yes, they've got the money, Yes, they control the economy. Yes, they heavily influence the political system. Yes, corporations control the media. But when millions of people are prepared to come together, white and black and Hispanic, young and old, gay and straight, men and women, people who were born in America, people who have immigrated to this country, they may have the money, they may have the power, we have the people, and we can beat them. Often I am asked, often I am asked by the media, and they say, well, why is your campaign generating so much excitement, so many individual campaign contributors? Why is your social media going off the charts? And why are so many people getting involved? And I think the answer is pretty simple. The American people are sick and tired of establishment politics.
Yes. Yes.
They want bold ideas,
Yes.
and they want a movement to take on the people who control America. The American people understand that corporate greed is destroying this country. And they want that to end. They understand that American politics is now dominated by big money interests. They want us together to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And the American people, and sometimes my friends in the media get a little bit upset with me. And it's not personal, because I get covered as well or badly as anybody else, so it's not that at all. But I think what the American people want is a media which looks at the real problems facing America, does not look at politics as if it were a football game or a soap opera. This campaign is not about Bernie Sanders. It is not about Hillary Clinton. It's not about Donald Trump or Jeb Bush or anybody else. This campaign is about you and hundreds of millions of Americans. It is about whether you and your kids are going to have decent jobs and decent income. It's about health care. It's about climate change. It is about a corrupt campaign finance system. It is about addressing the real needs of the American people. It is about... The stakes are too high. And let me be the first and only candidate, I think, to tell you a truth, which is not a pleasant truth, but is one you need to know. And that is, no president of the United States, not Bernie Sanders, not anybody else, can go into the Oval Office and effectively address the enormous problems facing this country alone. And the reason for that is that the powers that be, corporate America, the Koch brothers, corporate media, large campaign donors, Wall Street, are simply too powerful for one president to be able to make the changes we need. The only way we transform America is when millions of people stand up together and say enough is enough. to make clear is that this great country of ours and our government belong to all of us, not just a handful of very wealthy people. Today, you and I live in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. But most people in New Hampshire and in Vermont and throughout this country, they don't know that. They don't know it because they're working 2 or 3 jobs. They don't know it because they can't afford health care. They don't know it because they can't afford to send their kids to college. The truth is, the reason they don't know it is that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, almost all of the new wealth and income is going to the top 1%. And together, you and I are going to change that. Now, my Republican colleagues start shuddering when people talk about redistribution of wealth. They get very nervous. But the truth is, as I hope most of you know, that in the last 30 years, there has been a huge redistribution of wealth in America. The problem is the redistribution has gone in the wrong direction. While the middle class has been disappearing, the top 1/10 of 1% has seen almost a doubling of the wealth that they own in America. The truth is that in our country today, we have more income and wealth inequality than any other major industrialized country on earth. And the gap between the very, very rich and everybody else is wider today than at any time since 1928. And let me be very clear. There is something profoundly wrong when the top 1/10 of 1% own almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. That is not the economy we want, and that economy is going to change. All over your state and my state and throughout this country, people are working incredibly long hours. And in some cases, they're struggling just to put food on the table to feed their kids. Let me be clear. It is profoundly wrong that 58% of all new income generated today goes to the top 1%. Together, we're going to change that too. There is something profoundly wrong when our country in recent years has seen a proliferation of millionaires and billionaires at the same time as we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth. Not acceptable. There is something profoundly wrong when one family, the Walton family of Walmart, one family owns as much wealth as the bottom 40% of the American people. We're not talking about some small developing country. We are talking about the United States of America. This level, this grotesque level of income and wealth inequality is immoral, it is unacceptable, it is unsustainable, and it is un-American, and we're going to change it. We have a message to the billionaire class, and that message is, you cannot, you will not have it all. You are not going to get huge tax breaks when children in America go hungry. You are not going to continue sending American jobs to China and other countries when millions of Americans are in desperate need of decent paying jobs. You are not going to continue to hide billions and billions in profits in the Cayman Islands and in other tax havens. You are going to start paying your fair share of taxes in this country. The question that we must address and will address is, how does it happen that in an economy where we have seen a huge explosion of technology, so that most workers today are much more productive than they were 20 or 30 years ago, how does it happen that despite that increase in productivity, millions of people are working longer hours for lower wages? How does it happen that median family income, that family right in the middle of the American economy, has lost almost $5,000 in income since 1999. We are going to fight for an economy that works for working families, not just billionaires. And when we talk about the economy, let me throw some issues on the table here that many others do not talk about. Once a month, the U.S. government comes out with an unemployment statistic. It's the official unemployment rate. Last month, it was something like 5.3%. But the U.S. government comes out with another statistic, which is the real unemployment rate, including those people who have given up looking for work and the millions of people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time. That figure of real unemployment is over 10%. We've got a jobs crisis in America that we must address. Furthermore, and here's something that almost nobody talks about. I cannot understand why people don't talk about it. They don't. We have a major tragedy in terms of youth unemployment in America. Youth unemployment, not talked about. I asked the Economic Policy Institute last month to do a study for me on what real youth unemployment in this country is. People who are not working, giving up looking for work, working part-time. This is what they came up with. For kids 17 to 20 who graduated high school graduates, if they were white, 33% unemployed or underemployed. Wow. If they were Hispanic, 36%. If they were African American, 51% unemployment. This is an issue we are not going to continue to sweep under the rug. You got millions of kids here in New Hampshire, in my state of Vermont, all over America, hanging out on street corners. They don't have jobs. They are not in school. And if anyone thinks there is not a connection between that fact And the fact that we have more people in jail than any other country on earth, you would be sorely mistaken. And there are few things that I feel more strongly about than the need to invest in our young people in jobs and education rather than jail and incarceration. We do not want to live in a country which has more people in jail than communist China. We want to live in a country which has the best educated population on earth. When we talk about the economy, it's not just income and wealth inequality, it's not just unemployment. Well, we also understand that millions of people in this country are working 40, 50, 60 hours a week because their wages they receive are just too damn low. The vast majority of people who go to emergency food shelves are people who are working. Many of them are working full-time, but they are not earning enough money to feed their kids. That is wrong. And that is why we have got to understand that the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour is a starvation wage, and it must be raised to a living wage. And that living wage over a few year period should be $15 an hour. I don't think it is a radical idea to say that if somebody works 40 hours a week in America, that person not live in poverty. That is not a radical idea. When we talk about fair wages and decent income, I would hope that every man in this audience is prepared to stand with the women and fight for pay equity for women workers. There is no rational economic reason why women should be making 78 cents on the dollar compared to men. That has got to change. Sometimes I wonder how a mom, a single mom, can raise her kids. It is a task almost beyond comprehension.
Impossible.
That's right, it is. And these single moms who are fighting every day to raise their kids with dignity are the heroines of this country. Unbelievable. And the least we can do is make sure that they get equal pay for equal work. And when we do that, by the way, we're going to take a big chunk out of poverty in America and give them the resources to better bring up their kids with security and dignity. Now, here in New Hampshire, for better or for worse, you see a lot of politicians coming through your state. And many of my Republican colleagues who come through New Hampshire and Iowa and so forth, they often talk about family values. You hear them talking about family values? They just love families. But all of you know what they mean by family values. And what they mean by family values is that the women of this country should not have the right to control their own bodies. I disagree. What they mean by family values is that women are not smart enough to be able to purchase the contraceptives they need. I disagree. And furthermore, what they mean by family values is that our gay brothers and sisters should not be able to get married or enjoy the other benefits of the American legal system. I disagree. I have 4 kids. You've met one of them tonight, Levy. I have 7 grandchildren, including 3 who live here in New Hampshire. Beautiful kids. And I have been married to my wife Jane for 27 years. We believe in strong families and family values, but our views just a little bit different than our Republican friends. When we talk about family values, what we mean is the United States should end the international embarrassment of being the only major country on earth that does not guarantee family and medical leave to all of our families. Today in New Hampshire, and today in Vermont, and all over this country, women are giving birth to babies. And every parent in this room knows what an extraordinary, unforgettable, momentous day that is. For the parents, it's a pretty big day for the babies as well. But here's the point. Here's the point. If that mom does not have sufficient funds, she's low income, working class, it is likely that she will have to be separated from her baby and go back to work after a week or 2 weeks. That is not a family value. That's the opposite of a family value. That is why I believe the United States must join the rest of the industrialized world and guarantee at least 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave. Furthermore, we are the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee paid sick time or paid vacation time. We have got to end that international embarrassment as well. When people are working 50 weeks a year, they deserve at least 2 weeks off of paid vacation. When pollsters make telephone calls and they call up the American people and they say, what is uppermost on your mind? What are you thinking about? The answer almost always is a four-letter word called jobs. Why is that? Because people understand how fragile, how volatile the economy is. They know that if you are 55 years of age and you walk into work tomorrow, your boss may say, well, sorry, Joe, you work here for 30 years, we've got to let you go because we have somebody half your age who work at half your wages. Yeah. People are nervous. And if you're young, you know how hard it is to get a job, and if you have a college degree, how hard it is to get a job commensurate with your education. So when we have over 10% real unemployment, when youth unemployment is 30, 40, 50%, this country needs a massive federal jobs program to put our people back to work. We have, as all of you know, in Vermont, in New Hampshire, all over this country, an infrastructure which is crumbling. Our roads, our bridges, our rail system, water plants, wastewater plants, all in need of massive repair. When you have high unemployment and you have an infrastructure which is crumbling, common sense indicates that you invest in rebuilding your infrastructure and put millions of people back to work. Legislation that I have introduced, $1 trillion, 5 years for the infrastructure, creates up to 13 million decent paying jobs. But it is not enough just to create jobs. We also have to stop the loss of millions of jobs as a result of our disastrous trade policies. I know that trade is not a sexy issue. Doesn't get discussed by the media much. Enormously important. Since 2001, in this country, we have lost 60,000 factories. 60,000 factories. Young people don't know that there was once a time when you could walk into a store and actually buy a product made in the United States of America, not in China. You're looking at a senator and a former congressman who voted against NAFTA, CAFTA, permanent ownership. And a senator who will help lead the opposition against this disastrous TPP. We need a trade policy that works for working people, that works for poor people in other countries, and is not simply designed to maximize corporate profits. When we use words like greed, recklessness, arrogance, dishonesty, these are just a few of the adjectives used to describe Wall Street. All of you are aware that in 2007, 2008, the greed and illegal behavior on Wall Street drove this country into the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. Millions of people lost their jobs, lost their homes, and lost their life savings because of this greed and illegal behavior. We need a financial system which provides affordable loans to small and medium businesses so they can create decent paying jobs. We do not need a Wall Street which is an island unto itself, separate from the productive economy, whose only goal is to maximize profits for a handful of financial institutions. Not only do we have to bring back Glass-Steagall legislation, but more importantly, in my view, if a financial institution is too big to fail, it is too big to exist. Let's move forward. Probably won't get me many campaign contributions from Wall Street. What the heck? Now, I am often asked, Bernie, what is the most important issue? And I can never answer that because all of the issues that we are talking about are extraordinarily important. But this I can say. There is one issue that impacts every other issue. If you're concerned about jobs in the economy, healthcare, education, the environment, the one issue that impacts all of those issues has to do with our disastrous campaign finance system. And let me be as blunt as I can be. If I haven't been blunt enough, if I've been kind of wishy-washy tonight, let me be even more blunt. As a result of the disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court case, a 5-4 decision, the American political system has been totally corrupted and the foundations of American democracy are being undermined. That's the simple truth. What the Supreme Court essentially said to the wealthiest people in this country, they said, well, guys, you already own much of the economy. Now we are going to give you the opportunity to purchase the government of the United States of America. And that is exactly what is happening right now. Almost all of the candidates have super PACs, which will be more significant in terms of money and policy than the candidate's own campaign. Furthermore, we have a situation now where one family, the Koch brothers, second wealthiest family in America, worth about $85 billion. And this is a family that doesn't want to cut Social Security. They want to eliminate Social Security. It's true. They don't want to cut Medicare and Medicaid. They want to eliminate federal public health programs so that they can become wealthy and have these activities done in the private sector. They don't want to cut the Environmental Protection Agency. They want to eliminate it. They don't want to not raise the minimum wage. They want to eliminate the concept of the minimum wage so workers in America can work for $3 or $4 an hour. That is their overall agenda. These folks, one family, will be spending more money in this election cycle, $900 million, than either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. When you have one extraordinarily wealthy family spending more money than either of the two major political parties, brothers and sisters, that is not a democracy, that is an oligarchy, and we've got to change it. I want to see this country have the most vibrant democracy in the world. I want to see us have the highest voter turnout, not one of the lowest. Now, I've not made many campaign promises so far during this campaign, but let me repeat one that I have made. And that is, no nominee of mine to the United States Supreme Court will have his or her name go to the Senate for confirmation unless they are absolutely clear and loud to say that one of their first orders of business will be to overturn this disastrous citizenship. But not only do we have to overturn Citizens United, we've got to go further. I want anybody in America, conservative, progressive, moderate, whatever, who wants to run for political office to be able to do so without begging wealthy people for campaign contributions. And that is why I believe and will fight for public funding of elections. When we talk about our responsibilities as Americans, as adults, as parents, as citizens, I cannot think of anything more important than leaving this planet to our kids and our grandchildren in a way that is habitable. We'll talk about it in a minute, if you could, please.
Can you talk about the disproportionate impacts?
I will talk about it in a minute. This country has a moral responsibility to lead the world in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. What the scientific community has told us, by the way, that we have a pretty short window of opportunity to make these changes. But if we continue as business as usual, what they are telling us is that by the end of this century, this planet will be 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer. That means, I want you to understand what that means. That means more droughts, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances. It means more acidification of the ocean. It means more international conflict as countries and peoples fight for limited natural resources. We must be aggressive and lead the world working with China and Russia and India in transforming our energy system on behalf of our kids and our grandchildren. Excuse me, man. Excuse me. When we talk about climate change, I want you to understand something. Obviously, I am one of the most progressive members of the United States Senate, and my views are different than are my Republican colleagues. We disagree on everything, that's fair enough. But I want to know, important point here, on this issue of climate change, what we are looking at is an international embarrassment when you have a major political party rejecting science. There are virtually no Republican candidates for president We even acknowledge the human causation of climate change. And I'll tell you why that's so. It's not because Republicans can't read the science. It gets back to the issue of campaign finance. And what Republicans know, that if they speak up and say, you know what, we've got to address climate change, their campaign contributions from the Koch brothers and big energy will be cut. In my view, these Republicans should worry more about their kids and their grandchildren and the future of this planet than their campaign contributions. When we talk about the United States within an international context, let me just make this point that I expect many of you know. We remain the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people. That has got to change.